This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 175. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
And Kodra.
Hi.
We are down at Thalen, and we are down at Tam, because it is his birthday. Except for when you listen to this, it won't be his birthday anymore. But still, wish him a belated birthday. So, I think last week we talked about Pokken Tournament a bit.
I mentioned that it existed.
And as of this week, you've played it?
I played a bit with Kodra, yeah.
Tell me about the Pokkens.
It is a fighting game that is sort of a weird cross between, like, the Naruto games, in that you have a field phase where you run around in a full 3D environment and try to hit each other with mostly range attacks, and also a duel phase, which plays basically like Tekken. It is, side view, more traditional controls.
That already sounds weird.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. How does that transition?
It transitions when you land certain attacks for the most part. Like, most Pokemon have some sort of projectile combo that will have a larger final hit, and if you land that, you will then go into duel phase. Or if you're in duel phase and you land a throw, you'll go back to field phase. This works better than it sounds, quite frankly.
Like, I assume it's a seamless transition, and, like, you're just kind of bouncing back and forth between the two ranges?
You get a bit of a slow-mo as your attack lands, and it tells you your phase shifting, and then you go back to full speed.
So what Pokemon are available? Are, like, these only humanoid Pokemon?
No. Pikachu is obviously available. The roster does sort of tend toward fighting types. Pikachu is in, Blaziken is in, Lucario is in, Machamp is in. But also Suicune is in, Darkrai is in, Sceptile is in, and some others I'm probably not remembering. But yeah, Decidueye from Sun and Moon is in. I think that's the most recent one.
I would assume, like, Charizard is a thing.
Charizard is in.
Charizard is totally in. And he is awesome.
Greninja is not for some reason.
Really? That sounds... I mean, like, that's one of the ones I would have assumed would have been in. Does Greninja just not have a big enough following?
I guess not. It was a surprise when it showed up in Smash Brothers.
I mean, is this... I guess the question is, like, is this an actually good game, or is it a novelty game?
It's an actually good game.
I think it's really good. In fact, it's one... I want to talk about it because it's, like, one of my favorite fighters I've played.
Really?
Yeah, it's very, very... So it doesn't have you do complicated inputs to get special moves off. You have a special move button. You press forward special move, back special move, up special move, and special moves happen, just like in Smash Brothers.
There's one more button than Smash Brothers, basically. You have a light attack, a heavy attack, and a special attack. But as a result, it's not very hard to do things. Like, you don't even... In order to do a fireball-like thing, you don't need to do a fireball motion, you just need to press the special attack button.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'd really like that.
We discussed this a bit. Like, one of the problems with... I guess we also sort of discussed this last week. One of the problems with Sirlin's game is that the fighting game community has some issues with anything that is simpler than what they are used to.
Well, I guess, like, for me, like, the whole thing that made Street Fighter 2 so miraculous to me was, like, I'm doing these moves, and now it's varying the attacks based on the moves I did. And it felt really cool to do that. But, I don't know, like, without combo moves, or without, like, special moves, I don't know, games like that always feel like, just a beat 'em up, like a Double Dragon-y beat 'em up, rather than a fighting game.
This is definitely still a fighting game. Combos still exist. In fact, in the tutorial, they still have combo trials to learn how your attacks link up together. For me, it sort of is what I mentioned last week. If, a quarter circle forward plus punch is a thing you're expected to be able to do whenever you want, well, why not just make it forward and a button? And Pokken does that, but it also does something else. Fighters normally have this traditional rock, paper, scissors thing where, attacks, throws beat blocking, attacks beat throws, blocking beats attacks. Pokken explicitly sticks counter in where block would normally be, So you have this triangle of attacks that are explicitly strong against each other, which means you get the whole. It is more explicit what beats what, rather than having you have to try to figure that out.
I assume like Pokemon types don't factor into this at all.
They do not.
Not really.
Because like that would be like really unfortunate.
So as a result, this was the first time that I ever felt like I understood the various strategies between characters. We played a extended trial match between Charizard and was it
Suicune? Yeah. After basically both picking up the controller and going, I don't know how this game works. You don't know how this game works. Let's play a match. And we played a match, and it was kind of interesting. Then we went into training to figure out how the game actually works.
And at that point is when, so we played I played like I don't even know what my character was really doing. Sort of a techie type of character. It was a standard character, and you were playing more of a defensive, fast character. But when it was Charizard versus Suicune, it was very much, I am trying to get in very, very close, and you are trying to start to keep me very, very far away. And the transition thing we talked about between field mode and duel mode was very important about who got it off, because Charizard is all about going into duel mode when he's right next to you, and Suicune has lots of ways to do that when they are very far away. So it starts the more standard Tekken style combat to the advantage of the initiator, the person who managed to pull off the attack.
Suicune is also one of the weirder characters I've seen in fighting games in a while, and the only character I can think of who can do ranged attack combos since New 13 in Blaze Blue. Normally that's not a thing they let characters do.
Yeah, I mean, usually fighting games have a range poke, but that's about it.
Suicune can do it, and I messed around a little more, and Chandelure is in the game, the literally floating chandelier. So that's not human-like at all, but...
Is the Pokemon that's basically just a sword in the game?
No, that Pokemon is not in the game. But that would have been amazing. But in this case, there is fire, and put enough fire all over the place, it really doesn't matter what you look like. That character is even more focused on keeping away. It's ranged grab, ranged combos, ranged everything you want. Just stay all the way over there and away from my fragile, tiny health value.
What platforms is this on?
Pokken originally released for the Wii U. We played it on the Switch.
Cool.
Just released on the Switch last Friday.
Yeah, I feel like I'm significantly way more likely to play something on the Switch than on my Wii U at this point.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Sort of makes me wonder when they're going to re-release Smash for it. And when I'm going to be enough of a sucker to buy it.
Oh, you will. Then you can take your Switch to parties and, play Smash with people on rooftops.
If the GameCube controller adapter works on the Switch, then yes, I'm going to probably double dip. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have to think long and hard about it.
I don't know. Can just standard USB controllers work on the Switch?
The dock has USB ports.
Yeah, I've not tried an actual non-Switch USB controller. I'm curious
I haven't either.
Now.
I don't actually know.
Because I've heard basically any Bluetooth controller will work with it.
I wouldn't expect X input controllers to work, but direct input ones might.
I mean, I know that the other direction, the Switch controller works great on Windows.
That's what I've heard. I haven't tried that either. I feel like the 360 and or Xbox One controllers also work great on Windows, so I haven't had a whole lot of cause to deviate from that.
I don't know. I just took to that because somebody told me it worked, and it did.
Didn't via Bluetooth?
No, just with the USB cable.
Oh.
I mean, potentially it would work with Bluetooth. I know the mini cons work with Bluetooth on an Android device or a Windows PC or any of those things.
Huh. I feel like we've come a long way since 2006.
Yeah. I think they're just general standards that, people expect things to be at least partially interoperable. So, something that released Friday was Ixalan. And this weekend, various tournaments and such have been going on, and I think Ixalan is pretty widely available at this point, wherever you might want to get it. I picked up a fat pack earlier, and Didn't get anything super spectacular out of it, but I got a couple of the heavy hitters.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Like I got one of the currently $10 green dinosaurs, and I got the black flip enchantment land.
Which green dinosaur?
God, hang on.
Is it the Enraged Draw a Card one?
Yep, it is the Enraged Draw a Card one.
That one's good.
No mythics at all, but I've heard mythics are insanely difficult to get this time around. And I guess, like, I have
It's because there are no invocations this time.
Yeah, so basically I have commentary about Ixalan because the last 6 sets, last 3 blocks, have involved some sort of crazy chase card. And as a result, all of the big stores opened copious amounts of product.
I mean, they should have been able to see that there were no chases in this time.
No, they did. Like, I'm just saying, like, in the previous 6 sets, Channel Fireball, Card Kingdom, basically anyone that bulk does anything opened way more of the product than they would. Right.
No invocations, no masterpieces.
Right. I'm just saying, like, so the last 6, people over-opened it, trying to get chase cards. And as a result, none of the cards had any value at all, really.
Mm-hmm.
And now, it's looking like maybe this is going to be a set where cards actually have value. And it depends on, like, if people start opening like mad, trying to go for the $30 dinosaur.
Which dinosaur is $30?
Wait, did Gishath really become that popular?
Carnage Tyrant.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, never mind.
The Rock.
Yeah, Carnage Tyrant cannot be countered.
What are you gonna do, Control Decks? You have no answers to me.
Yeah, it's gone down a little bit, but like at one point it was $32, now it's $27. I mean, things are going to be volatile for a while, as are always the case when a set comes out.
Look, Cyclonic Rift still works.
There are actually uncommons that are worth some money in this set. Unclaimed Territory is like a $2.50 card, which is just unheard of from the last several sets. Like, none of the uncommons were really worth anything. It's weird because, like, I don't know, like, I'm hearing people talk about this set in, specific ways of whether or not cards are useful, and that's going to drive the value instead of if cards are rare, which is probably a move in the right direction. Because, I mean, I think that the chase card thing just basically decimated any resale value that Magic had for those sets, unless, you happen to pull one of the chase cards.
I mean, there were still cards that were worth like $10 to $15. It's just the price of an individual card was way down because there was so much of it on the market because the chase cards were what everyone was going for.
Well, and I think the problem is like cracking a box of product. It was to the point where if you did not get a chase card, you couldn't hope to recoup any of the cost of your box.
Mm-hmm.
And it's looking like people are actually doing a decent job of recouping the cost with Ixalan so far. There are a lot of, fairly valuable rares, which is, again, not something that was happened in the last several sets. Like, mythics were valuable, or at least some of the mythics were valuable. And it almost, like, maybe this is just me being weird about it, but it feels like there's less dead cardboard in this set than some of the other sets that have released recently. It's almost like they knew there were no chase cards, so they had to make the individual cards better overall. And I guess there's like a lot of really situationally interesting cards, like Spell Swindle. I have a feeling somebody is going to build a deck that centers around Spell Swindle and figure out how to make it work.
I'd have to look up Spell Swindle. I would say that there are new tribes, so the potential for new tribes is certainly a thing.
Well, I mean, I think the whole you can win by normal means or you can win by gathering 10 treasures is also interesting. And just for reference, Spell Swindle is 5 converted costs, so it's 3 and a 2-drop blue. Counter target spell, create X colorless treasure artifact tokens, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. They have tap to sacrifice this artifact to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So they're basically just like the tokens.
It's a really expensive counterspell.
It's a really expensive counterspell, but it's an expensive counterspell for someone who's going to win off of getting treasure tokens.
Is mechanized production still in standard?
Yes.
That might be a better way to win off of treasure tokens than the card they printed in this time. I think mechanized production lets you win the game if you have 8 copies of the enchantment that it targets. Artifact, rather.
Yes.
And treasure is artifacts. So, if I remember correctly, that card requires you to have 10 copies of the of treasure in order to get anything out of it.
10 treasures. But, I mean, that's fine. Like, that's an interesting deck. I don't know if it's a good deck.
I mean, I guess
if I remember correctly, that enchantment also does something for you, even if you aren't going for its win condition. It's just the thing that's sitting there, just maybe in case whatever you were going for otherwise doesn't work out.
I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of interesting cards that would be fun to build decks around.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can definitely see that.
Like whether or not it's competitive, like this is a set that brings in a lot of interesting stuff.
I do like the flip lands.
Well, and I like that the flip lands are basically them coming up with an alternate way to reprint stuff off the restricted list.
Only one of them is like that.
Well, is Diamond Valley restricted? I thought Diamond Valley was restricted, and one of the lands is basically Diamond Valley.
No, Diamond Valley isn't restricted.
Okay, it's just ancient, so like I thought,
old.
Yeah, but I mean. That gives them somewhere to go, because like I feel like with the restricted list,
I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. It is on the restricted list.
Okay, I thought so. I feel like with the restricted list, they basically painted themselves into a corner, and there would be such an uproar if they ever started reprinting stuff off of that list from the collector side of the community.
I feel like when they made the reserve list, they were not as concerned about people playing their game as much people collecting their game. Which is sort of how I feel Games Workshop got into some problems. And now that they're more concerned about people playing their game, they are, I don't know if they completely regret it, but they've made some noises about that. But it's probably still never going to change.
Well, and the big problem is they have these Masters sets, and this year they'll have had 2 in the same year, and they're not really the cards that I would consider like especially this one called Iconic Masters.
I mean, it has Channel and Fireball in it.
Yeah, sure. But like
it has Lord of the Pit in it.
I feel like there's a lot of cards that could have been in there. Or the fact that every other Masters set has reprinted Tarmogoyf.
This one I feel like there are some cross purposes. Like they wanted to make it draftable. So it needs to still work as a draft set.
Yeah, all of their Masters sets are designed to be draftable and specifically have deck archetypes that you are trying to draft towards. Like, I don't know if it's going to be any iconic, but like in a lot of the Eternal Masters, Reanimator was a draft archetype that you could try and go for.
Well, I know Necropotence is in Iconic. So, like, there's some weird cards that are going to have interesting uses. I was kind of shocked that Necropotence wasn't on the restricted list.
Nope. It's an Ice Age. But actually, that shouldn't matter.
Right. Like, there's cards from lots of different sets on the restricted list. So, like,
the restricted list was entirely all the rares from the sets that from before it came out.
Yeah, but Necropotence was a rare.
Yeah.
From Ice Age.
Absolutely. Necropotence kind of dominated the meta for a very, very long time.
It's true. Well, that's because it was only 3 mana. You could theoretically ritual it out, and it said pay a life, draw a card. It was janky the way that you did that, but that's still too good. Like, eventually they reprinted that, and it made it cost 6 mana, and that was too good.
I'd like to see them do some stuff of having, like, more functional reprints of some of the cards that, people really want to see back in the game, but tweaked.
What do you mean
the reserve
by that?
List also prohibits functional reprints.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? Like, what card do you want to see back?
Oh god, there's tons of older cards that I think would be interesting. but mostly I'm thinking in ways like, Gaia's Cradle was the green flip is a functional reprint of Gaia's Cradle.
It's definitely not a functional reprint. It is a pseudo reprint.
Well, there you go.
But like they do that. They do that all the time. They haven't done it in a while because
Magus of the Wheel exists because Wheel of Fortune is on the reserved list.
Magus of the Wheel exists. What was I thinking? But like, Ancestral Visions exists. Lion's Eye Diamond exists. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess Lotus Petal and all of those can kind of fall in that category too.
Various flavors of Moxen exist.
Chrome Mox and
Diamond Mox.
And which one is the one that's like a multicolored Mox if you have Metalcraft?
Chrome
or
Mox,
something?
I believe.
Or, yeah.
Maybe it's
Mox
Opal.
Opal. Mox Opal. Yep.
Chrome is the one with imprint.
But like, they do try and do that, but like, balance them. Bring them back at a lower balance level. And the problem is that if you're able to play in Vintage, where you get to play with whatever you want, that means you're always playing with inherently weaker cards. I am fascinated to see if they ever go back on the restricted list. They say they won't, but I always wonder.
I mean, they've been debating this since it came out.
Yup.
Doesn't seem like it's going anywhere.
I kind of feel like if Hasbro ever said you will print the restricted list,
I mean, sure,
they would be printing the restricted list.
So did you?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you get any chance to play with any of the new cards, Bell?
No, because I have no local Magic shop. So, yeah, like I don't have an
Local game
LGS.
store.
Yeah, like the closest one is a long ways off, and I mean technically the closest one is the one where Ray had the situation where like she walked in to buy something and they asked who she belonged to. So I really don't want to give them money or time.
I've played a game with Merfolk. Merfolk seem fun.
I had heard that MTG Arena, like the first set we would get to play with, was Ixalan.
I don't believe that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the set they demoed.
That's the set they demoed, but is MTG Arena that close to prime time?
I don't know.
Probably.
I feel like MTG Arena is the answer to my wants in a Magic situation. Or at least I'm really hoping it's the answer.
Oh.
I mean, because I would really love to have, Magic Hearthstone.
Yeah, definitely.
That is actually Magic and not Hex or Eternal.
Right, exactly. That's real Magic.
With modern cards and also Magic drafting rules.
Yes, I would love to have a draft like that. I mean, I know you enjoy MTGO, but I just couldn't get past the interface.
Oh, I know. I really am excited for the potential for some draft ends.
I mean, I really hope that, sure, they're going to have to launch with smaller stuff, but I am hoping that eventually they support Commander and, Pauper and some of the other formats that people play.
I would like it if they support Commander.
I mean, I'm fine if they basically launch with Friday Night Magic, but I want them to do some other stuff too.
It would take a long time to get all of the cards necessary for Commander, or really any of the other Eternal formats. Commander really is just the worst.
I mean, but really, in the grand scheme of things, if they supposedly have this rules engine that can tackle all of their cards, I'm not 100% sure if I believe that statement. But if they really
I believe it can handle all of Modern. I believe that.
Okay. But if they really have
I also
this
believe
engine,
that they are hiring for it, so there probably some work still involved.
I mean, online card games are relatively cheap to make content for once the engine is built, as is evidenced by the fact that everyone is now making an online card game.
Yes, but everyone else's online card game was designed as an online card game and has interactions that are easy in an online card game. That said, doesn't MTGO handle a whole bunch of rules interactions?
It does. Yeah.
It's not like they'd have to start from scratch.
Okay, they don't... It's a mess. Their rules engine is a patchworked mess of code, though.
Okay, maybe they should start from scratch.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize we were in one of those situations.
Yes, we're in one of those situations.
I don't know. I can daydream, right? I want this thing to exist.
I find it sort of troubling just as a statement about Magic as a game that the rules and the card interactions are so complicated that programming it into a computer game is difficult, because it seems like rules of games should be something straightforward to put into a program.
So the comprehensive rules are 228 pages long. They read like computer code, though, in some
They
ways.
read like laws, is what they read like.
True.
And that's the problem, right? Like, because laws are not something that translates well into computer code.
But they're not like laws because they are designed to be as unambiguous as possible, unlike a lot of laws.
Yes.
Rules lawyering was a thing.
Oh, sure. I mean,
I'm sure it still is a thing.
Like, I've kind of made my peace after trying Hearthstone with the fact that, like, card games of this sort are not for me anymore, as much as I used to love Magic. And just, like, hearing these discussions about some of these various terrible interactions and the way that they're trying to build this code to deal with all of the possibilities is not really selling me on coming back at all.
Well, and the other unspoken thing is that the Magic community is not really a great community all the time. There are a lot of toxic people in that community. And that's part of what's kept me away from ever really settling into a shop again, is that I'm not even sure if I could find one that I could, enjoy going to on a regular basis. I mean, like, during the Ixalan launch, I watched several box openings just to see what the regularity of the cards were, and video after video, the people were all kind of making the exact same comments about how they were complaining that there were no hot women in this set.
Huh.
Gross.
And I mean, that's kind of something that I've heard a lot from that community. I mean, and maybe the scene in Seattle is a vastly different one, but that's kind of been my experience in local game stores around here.
There is a local game store that I walked into and out of.
Yes. I've definitely done that.
But the other one nearby seems pretty decent, and I'm probably going to try to see if I can get some Commander in there at some point soon.
I don't know, it's just been my experience that it's not exactly a welcoming community, which is unfortunate, because I would absolutely love to play casually, but thus far I haven't really had options for that. So, like I said, I think my last hope is really that MTG Arena is not a bad thing, and that it continues to evolve along the same path that it's been going, and turns into something interesting.
Because online games communities can be just as toxic, but at least you can mute people.
Exactly. Yup. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about some Destiny 2 stuff, and I'm going to try really hard not to talk about it in enough detail to probably get super deep in the weeds on this one. But this week we had the first new event of a sort happen. It's like in Destiny 1, every week there was Trials of Osiris, and in Destiny 2 there's Trials of the Nine, which is an exact, setup just like that, where it's like this competitive PvP match. And then once a month there was Iron Banner, and from what I understand, Iron Banner is going to be back shortly as well. But they started this thing called Faction Rally. So the three factions from Destiny 1, New Monarchy, Future War Cult, and Dead Orbit, now have the same vendors. So Arakjalal, Lakshmi, and Executor Hidemo are now accepting pledges, I guess, for lack of a better word. So for the past week, you've been able to pledge your loyalty to one of the factions, and you're stuck with whoever you choose during the week. And then everything you do out in the world, be it a strike or be it PvP or lost sectors or public events, awards a certain amount of tokens to that faction. And there's apparently some bigger competition going on where you're basically vying for a weapon. Like, each of them has put up a weapon that if their faction gets the most tokens turned in, then you'll be able to buy that weapon cheaply. and then everyone that wasn't that faction will be able to buy it for like 50,000 glimmer, which is not a cheap price. But more than that, there's like entire sets of armor that are themed after the factions, and they've also brought what appears to be part of a larger rotating set of faction weapons. And each one of them is currently giving away 4 different weapons per faction, and they're all like really cool versions of some of the guns that are already in the system, but they're tweaked in certain ways, and they're I don't know, thematically interesting. But the rumor is that this is going to be like a monthly event, kind of like Iron Banner, whereas Iron Banner is a PvP thing. This is like a mostly PvE thing, or in truth, it's an anything thing. So I have been doing my normal crazy thing, and I have collected the full set of all 12 faction weapons that are available right now.
Oh, of course you have.
Yeah. Because I have 3 characters already leveled.
I was going to ask if it took 3 characters to do this.
Yep, it did. So, yeah, I have 3 characters that are not too far off from the current level cap. But it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun doing stuff to get the tokens, to go get interesting stuff from the faction merchants.
I mean, I'm a fan of big events like that you choose how you participate. So I think that's cool.
And like
Rather
each faction has
Iron Banner, which I don't want to do because it's just PvP.
Like the funny thing about this event is like everyone had their own reasons for choosing what faction they went for. Like some people did it because they wanted to collect a full set of armor for that faction because they thought it looked really cool. Other people just wanted the shaders, for a specific faction because like it was in their color palette.
Does that mean Dead Orbit is entirely black and white shaders again?
Dead Orbit is black and white and brownish.
Look, the right answer is New Monarchy because they're red. Just saying.
I gotta say, like, okay, I was never a big fan of New Monarchy, but their shaders are amazing. They're like maroon and black and gold with like white highlights. Yeah, no, their shaders are awesome. So I'm more than happy to rep them on my Warlock because I thought the Warlock set was cool. But yeah, like I mean, it's unique gear, it's unique shaders. All the weapons are themed. I mean, I chose my main because of the weapons, and Future War Cult had the best weapons as far as I was concerned this time. But the entire table of available weapons leaked, and like in future runnings of the faction rally, there'll be some really interesting weapons on all of the vendors.
So can you, I mean, other than going outside the game and looking it up, can you see before you choose your faction for the week which ones they have?
Yeah, so one of the cool things about Destiny 2 is like every vendor that has tokens has the ability for you to preview what their drop table is.
Oh, nice.
So they all have like 2 rows of things. And the first row is these are things that are semi-unique to this vendor. And then the second row is these are some other things you might get. So usually you get one drop. So like when you turn in a faction package, you get at least 2 items. And you almost always get 1 from the exclusive table and 1 from the more general table. So like when I'm doing these faction packages for the different Destiny 1 factions, I'm usually getting either a piece of armor or an exclusive weapon, and then some other item that can come from lots of different sources. And I think the only exception to that is the gunsmith, from what I understand, has the capability of giving you like any weapon in the game. There's just a really low chance for some of them, other than I think the raid weapons and the trials weapons. But yeah, no, it's been great. I have no clue who's winning because there's no larger tally board saying which faction's winning.
Seems kind of important, actually.
I have a feeling that it's either going to be Dead Orbit or Future War Cult, just because those tend to be the ones that people rep more often than New Monarchy. I'm really hoping for Future War Cult, because as far as I'm concerned, it's the only interesting weapon up for grabs. So supposedly there's going to be a week following, so next week there will be like a winner declared, and I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I'm kind of hoping like everything's decorated in the banners of that faction, just to kind of drive home that, you know, they won. But I know you'll basically have a week to buy the weapon off the vendor before it all goes away again until the next time it runs. But there's already been discussion talking about that Festival of the Lost, the Halloween event's going to happen, the Dawning, the New Year's event that also had the... I don't know if it's going to have Sparrow Racing, but like that was the one that had the cool Sparrow Racing in it. I'm super pumped. The 24th of October can't get here fast enough. Because while I realize I'm going to start completely from scratch, I'm so ready to be playing this on the PC. And I'm going to try really hard not to annoy the shit out of everyone else that's playing.
I'm looking forward to it.
So Ash, you have been playing a little Path of Fire. Or at least
Path of Fire.
Playing with mounts.
That's a lot more accurate. I've been running around the Crystal Desert, unlocking masteries, and getting my mounts. So I have the Raptor and the Skimmer and the Springer now. And the Springer, by the way, is hilarious.
Is that the bunny?
It's bunny. I sort of experienced this from one of the preview weekends in which they gave us a chance to ride around on the Raptor, but I didn't realize how different all of the mounts were going to be. Like, the Springer can charge its jump. So its claim to fame is that it has, you just said, giant vertical distance. This has the weird side effect of letting you get places in Central Tyria that you could not have gotten to before, because now you can actually go up.
So are those places as broken as they were in World of Warcraft?
For the most part, no. I can get the top of the giant starfish in Lion's Arch, and it's fully textured up here, and there's geometry, and I'm not falling through it.
Well, that's cool. It's almost as if they had planned ahead.
It's almost like they planned ahead. What's interesting is that in order to get the Springer, you have to have the Raptor at your Raptor Mastery at rank 3, so you can make the large jump required to get to the area where you get the Springer. The Skimmer, same story. You also need the same Raptor Mastery to make a similar large jump to get to the Skimmer. But in order to get the Jackal, you need 3 of either the Springer or the Skimmer, because there are 2 different ways to get up. So there's a sort of linear order in the way you have to get these, but not entirely. The Skimmer is also worth it just because you can travel over water. It's not as fast as the Raptor otherwise, but it really doesn't matter because you can travel over water.
So how do you summon these?
The default keybind is X. It's instant and can be done while moving. It's amazing. Mounts have their own health, so when you are on them and you would take damage, the mount takes damage. This includes falling damage, so you can't die from falling damage on a mount, with the exception of your mount gets killed while you're in the middle of the air, and then you take the rest of the falling damage. This has happened and is fatal.
So how much actual story do you need to do to unlock this?
You need to do the first mission, or at least the start of the first mission, to get a Jackal. Once you have a Jackal, you need to get it to rank 3 and travel to the zones with the Skimmer and the Springer in them, because they're in 2 different zones.
You mean a Raptor, not a Jackal?
Sorry, yeah. Once you get your Raptor to rank 3, you can take it up to get the other 2. Once you get one of those to rank 3, you can take them to the 4th zone to get the Jackal. You don't need to do anything other than the first mission in order to get your mounts. There is a 5th mount that they left out of all publicity that you do need to beat the story to get. You also need to complete several collections and spend a total of something like 250 gold.
Okay. Is gold easier to come by in the new areas?
No, it's not.
Ah, lovely.
So that's just going to be a eventually sort of thing.
Yeah. I mostly had not started any of the Path of Fire stuff because I was afraid that, like, I would end up getting entangled into a lengthy quest when I've not finished the Living World content yet.
I mean,
knowing the premise of the expansion somewhat spoils Living Story 3. Like, we're sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But I still haven't played Living Story 3, and I want to, because there's more than just, hey, Balthazar's a bad guy.
Yeah, but, like, to be fair, we've known Balthazar's a bad guy for a while.
Not really. At least he wasn't supposed to be.
I don't know, there were some zones in the old world where I definitely got that impression.
The ore zones have some problems with all of the human gods, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
The Balthazar isn't even the worst one. Melandru Shrines, when they're up, are even worse. There's nothing like getting crippled and bleeding every time you try to walk 2 steps.
From everything I've heard, though, the new expansion areas are amazing.
They look really cool. They are, as mentioned, they are far less vertical than the Heart of Thorns areas, which makes sense because desert. They make up for this by being gigantic.
I'm okay with this. I just found the Heart of Thorns area just difficult to traverse. And difficult to figure out what Z number I needed to be on to hit, the objective that I was actually looking for.
I still think Tangled Depths is the worst. I was over there to pick up a smoke scale for my ranger earlier today, and there are some Z-axis problems in that zone. It is still my least favorite zone in the game. But in addition to the new areas, I've been playing around with the new specs a little bit. Fully unlocked Weaver on my Elementalist. I unlocked about half unlocked Soul Beast on my Ranger and Firebrand on my Guardian. And so far these have all been pretty good. I guess I also unlocked Scourge on my Necromancer, and I have much less kind things to say about that one. For the ones I like, Firebrand is the last elite spec for Guardian was Dragon Hunter, which gave them some ranged options, specifically with the longbow, where they did not have any previously. Firebrand is back to having no real ranged weapon, giving you axe, and focuses on condition damage, specifically in the form of fire. So very much fire.
So, like Berserker.
Except, and then some.
Yeah.
It also replaces the virtues, which are normally they are passive effects that you can activate for an instant, more powerful effect, but then you lose the passive effect while it's on cooldown. They're replaced with tomes. So instead of activating them for an effect, you sort of equip a kit that has 5 new skills and get 5 uses of those before your skill goes on cooldown. They're sort of thematic. So the passive heal, when activated, gives you a whole bunch of healing abilities and supportive abilities. The passive shield gives you a bunch of ways to put spammable Aegis on things, which is pretty great. And then the passive burn just gives you 5 different ways to set people on fire. So I've been playing that a bit, and it's fun. I miss the gap closer on the sword when I'm using the axe, but I think the increased burning of the axe probably makes up for it. And it has a sort of reverse gap closure that can bring enemies closer to you. On the Elementalist front, Weaver is probably the most interesting elite spec I think I've seen. And it's really too bad Tam isn't here because he's been really enjoying this and playing it a lot more than me. Normally, Elementalists can't weapon swap, it switches between elements. Weaver does 2 things. One is it gives Elementalists actual melee, because the weapon you get is sword, and it's used as a melee weapon, as opposed to the dagger, which was previously used as a close range but not melee weapon. You get a sword. It changes the way attunements work. Your 1 and 2 abilities are based on your most recent attunement. Your 4 and 5 are based on whatever you had before that, and your 3 is a combination of both of them. So the name is based on sort of weaving the elements together to make new stuff. It is...
People tell me this is very fun. It sounds like nonsense.
It does sound like nonsense. Like, I watched one of the devs playing it, and they were obviously very good at this thing, but it was really hard to follow what they were actually doing.
It is lots of fun. The primary problem with it is that Elementalists have the lowest amount of health and the lowest amount of armor, and while Weaver does provide some defenses, it's still kind of squishy. So I find it a little hard to play from that perspective, not because of its mechanics are difficult. The other one I like is Soul Beast, but I think I still need to play around with that one a little more to go into detail on it. The general idea is that you can merge with your pet and gain some of your pet's abilities, which is why I went around to get a smoke scale, because you get Teleport Frenzy, and that's just fun.
Teleport Frenzy? What does that do?
No, when you fight a smoke scale, they tend to start blinking around you like crazy, attacking you.
Okay.
You can get that attack. It's similar to the Revenant sword attack if you played a Revenant. It's actually animates identically to that attack.
I really like dual sword Revenant.
It's a lot of fun. But that's pretty much all I've done in the expansion so far. There's a lot more that I have not seen.
So the only other thing that I really had on my list to talk about tonight was right now the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy event is happening in Final Fantasy Record Keeper, and this is a game that I keep poking my head in periodically, and if you have ever really played it, I totally suggest that you pop in for a bit and check out this event. Mostly because they're giving away a ton of stuff. There's like a 30th anniversary festival thing going on, and there's a special dungeon that has like a boss from every game that's been a Final Fantasy game. So like for Final Fantasy 14, it's a free, and it's a relatively easy battle, but like they give you a lot of really nice stuff for beating each one of these and unlocking the map as a whole. There's like a treasure chamber where you fight a magic pot, and the magic pot like drops 30 mithril at the end of it, which is, you know, for those who haven't already played, it's like the currency that drops from a lot of stuff that you can use to get more stamina and play more during a day. You can also use it to like buy relic unlocks and things like that. Mostly I use it as a way of getting stuff for characters in that game without spending any money. Because for like 40 mithril, you can do an 11 times relic draw for some of the really nice stuff. There's also like for a limited time a unique relic draw where they like draw 30 things at once. So you kind of have to make sure that your inventory isn't full. But like it literally throws out 30 things at once, and I don't like about 5 or 6 of them were like the rainbow quality items. I mean, Final Fantasy Record Keeper is kind of madness, but it's a madness that I enjoy because I play it super casually whenever I am bored and there's a new event going on. But this one is definitely worth checking out because, you know, unlike some of the stuff in that game that is kind of limited, and kind of really wants you to spend a bunch of money, this event like is just straight up giving you a bunch of stuff for free. Does anyone have anything else that they want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and join us next week when we talk about Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yay!
Yay!
Anyway, good night!
Good night.
Good night.
See you.